everyone, it's Sharana from Pay Your Weight, and today I'm going to be reviewing Power Book 2, Ghost Season 2, Episode 2, Selfless Act. You guys, I'm so sorry that I missed the season premiere of this series. In my mind, like, I knew it was coming back, but I still forgot the day of, so I really apologize to all of you. And I'm making it up to you by trying to get this review out as early as possible. So please bear with me. I'm still sick, so if I cough, just bear with me because it takes a lot to talk for a long period of time. But I will have to say that I really enjoyed the title of this week's episode, Selfless Act, about talking about altruism, being altruistic, which, hey, who would have thought? My brother, when I was younger, my brother said that I was being selfish. And so every day, I at first had to learn the definition of altruism. And then I had to call him every single day and tell him of an altruistic act that I did for someone else. So who would have thought this lesson that my brother taught me when I was young and being selfish, who would have thought this would have tied into an episode of Power? But here we are. This week's episode opens up and Tariq is having a dream, and we get guest star 50 Cent, who reprises his role as Kanan in Tariq's dream. And what better way to be introduced to him than him calling Tariq a little N-word and basically telling him to grow up, as this is a metaphor of Tariq really having to let his demons of the past go, of him killing his father, killing Jabari, the whole thing with Kanan, of really just having to let go of his past, because we see that it's constantly haunting him, especially as he's trying to wait to hear back from his mother, who he has sent away. And so we see, like, we hear this knocking. I was like, who is knocking on Tariq's door? Like the Popos. But it actually was the Popos. It was the NYPD knocking on his door. And they were like, hey, you need to come downtown with us. I was like, oh, hell no. What just happened? But it said it was Big Mama. She got a DWI. She had Yasmin, we're just gonna call her Yaz, in the car. And also, too, look at y'all. Okay, y'all done hid baby girl for, like, all the power. Having her pop up to the point that we forgot they even had the other child. Now she got to speak. She actually got to talk last week. She got to talk more this week. But before I could even get into that, she got sent to foster care because she can't go back to her grandmother's custody because her grandmother has to wait for a court date. And so we see that Sax Raggedy behind shows up. Sax getting on my nerves. I don't know how he done made it this long to a whole nother edition of Power, to a whole nother season of Power Book 2, but here we are. And so essentially, Tariq is like, sir, what are you doing here? And I was like, right, why are you still here? And so Sax tells him that he's working for Davis now, and Davis sent him down there. And essentially, Yaz has to go away until they can get all of this sorted out. So the next day when Sax shows up, every time I see Sax in this suit, I just die laughing, because I'm just like, Sax, this suit is not you, but I get it, Davis. You say he got to look like a bag of money. Go ahead and let him look like a bag of money. But he was able to use his white privilege in order to get their mother out on a DAT, which allows her to stay home until her hearing, as opposed to her having to stay in jail. And so essentially, Tariq is like, I don't trust Sax. And I was like, right, because why would we? He's done nothing but be distrustful to Tariq and everyone that he comes in contact with. And so essentially Davis tells him, hey, I don't trust him either, but we need him at this point. We know that, he's using him in order to get, do his own little side deal of getting his dude out of jail. But in the meantime, we see that he tells him, like, hey, if you want to get your sister back, you're gonna need somebody who has a lot of influence, and you're gonna need a lot of money. And so he's like, okay, cool, I got the money, but like, who I'm finna get to have some influence? Which you see what they was doing here. You see how they was setting it up, because it's gonna be Power Book 4 influence 5. I don't know. It's so many damn Power books. I can't keep up with which is which. But we know that one of the spinoffs is gonna be with Rashad Tate, played by Lorenz Tate, and it's called Influence. And so I was like, I see what y'all did there with the writing and how y'all ushered in. Okay, I'm sorry, let me just stop. Y'all know where I'm going at. So we see that essentially, because he's dealing with all this family stuff, he tells Brayden, like, hey, you're gonna have to handle the product by yourself. You need to go find a hiding place, whatever you need to do. He was gonna take it to one of his family spots. And so he basically says, like, hey, I need you to take care of that. But In the meantime, we see that Simon Stern meets with Rashad, and Rashad's trying to talk to him because he's trying to take over this guy's seat. But he was like, baby, we're not here to talk about that right now. I need you to do something for me. Because Stansfield is getting so much bad publicity with Jabari's murder, and then the murder that happened before on the school's campus, he was like, I need you to take this position as an adjunct professor, basically replacing Jabari for the canonical studies program. And then now he pimped out Carrie. He gonna pimp out Carrie's picture in order to get Rashad to say yes, and basically saying like, hey, this will help you essentially, you know, give you, this is a good PR move for you, and then also too, this will help you with your little plan to get your seat, but I need you to do this favor for me, and then I can help you later, basically. And once he saw how fine Carrie was, he basically said yes to this. So when Tariq walks into class and he sees Tariq, he looked like he saw a ghost. He was like, I can't go a day without seeing a St. Patrick. I know that's what he was thinking in his head. That's not what he said, but I'm sure that's what he was thinking when he saw them. And so we see that Rashad and Carrie, they do not get off to a good start, because Carrie's like, I am not here for this. Look at them. They're trying to replace one high-profile black man with another high-profile black man. Rashad trying to put his little moves on her. She is not moved, not one bit, shape, or form, because, you know, she liked to rob the cradle a little bit because she smashed Zeke. But we see that they have a really interesting conversation in class as they're talking about selflessness. And I like how they say that, you know, selflessness is a casualty of evolution, and that every good deed does have a selfish motive. And whether or not, you know, I love the analogy of them showing how, you know, people do good in the world so they can get into heaven. You know, you do good, you live a good life, you take care of people, and you're going to see the pearly gates when you go to the upper room. And I was like, you know what, that was a good example. Like, are we really selfless? Like, is there such a thing as a selfless act? I don't know. I was kind of leaning on the whole notion that there really isn't. But we see that at the end, basically Tariq goes to ask Rashad about whether or not he can basically help him in the family court system. And he was like, bro, I can't help you. And I was like, sir, now when you trying to teach the kids to do better? But once he asks him about, you know, do you know any Westons? And he basically says, yeah, I know some Westons. His little grimy behind basically said that he was going to help him. But before they can even solidify anything, Detective Kevin, real raggedy behind, comes in and wants to question Tariq about what is happening. And so Kevin, who is being very petty, okay, like, okay, you want to be with Carrie, she don't want to be with you like that, just let it go. Now you gonna have her as basically, Carrie is the main suspect into Jabari's murder, and Tariq plays into this as he's asking him questions about her and Jabari. He talks about how he saw them have a heated argument at a party, basically steering Kevin, just so, see what happened when you don't want to get nobody no good no more? You don't want to get them, you don't want to be with them. They gonna frame you for murder. That's basically what's gonna happen. And so essentially he's steering them into Carrie's direction so this doesn't fall back on him or Kane, because we see Kane is basically sweating him from last week to this week. Like, hey, like, we ain't seen them bring up Ramirez's name, but he basically tells them like, hey, they're looking into Jabari's ex, who happens to be one of his professors. So in the midst of all of this, I do want to talk about Kane a little bit, okay? So Kane actually, he played the game very well this episode. So essentially, he gets a text from MECCA. MECCA's so fine. I'm sorry, this ain't got nothing to do with it, but why is MECCA so fine? Them lips. Okay, Daniel who plays him, who I adore, and he's a great singer. Has he won a Tony? I don't know, but still, he fine. It like he buffed up a little bit. You guys might have seen him on Manifest before this, but I was just like, I just feel so blessed to just be in his presence. I'm like, can y'all please not kill MECCA? Can MECCA stay around for a long time so I could just continue to lust after him? But that's besides the point, because he's a good actor too, but I'm just saying, he fine. So he gets a text from MECCA asking to basically meet up. And essentially, Kane goes to meet up with him. And the first thing they ask him, like, who are you trying to impress? And so this kind of goes back into last week's episode where he was trying to, he was doing a bit most, like he was putting on a little show for MECCA to gain his approval. But he basically ends up telling him, about his mom, what's been happening, why he's kind of in the predicament that he's in. But we see that little guap done behind, then follow him and is recording himself. Like, some people just wasn't born with common sense. And Lil Guap is one of those people. It's like, why would you record this? And so he goes up, and then MECCA basically ends up breaking all his fingers. And then he basically tells, Kane, you couldn't even, see that this little fool was following you the whole time. So obviously, you're not ready to be in my organization. You're not ready for this. So, he sent him on his own merry little way. But in the midst of all of this, Kane has devised his own plan on how he's going to get back into the family and get into MECCA's good graces at the same time. What looks like what he is doing is a selfless act, showing up to talk to Drew, to apologize to him, to take him. He basically says, since I'm gone, I need you to be able to protect the family. So he takes him to learn how to shoot guns, how to use his non-dominant hand. And it seems like, oh, look at Kane, he's trying to be a good person. But no, this was not a selfless act at all. This was all a part of his plan. He basically ends up ripping off his mom and them. He ends up stealing the product out of Brayden's trunk. And we see that he is the reason why the product got switched in order for them to basically lose their connect. Well, they already lost their connect, but essentially they can't move any product. So they have to find a connect quicker than they actually thought. And so this is how he actually ends up being back into MECCA's good graces. And we're going to see where everything is going to go from there. But it seems like Diana is actually on to him. So in the midst of all of this, let's just get rid of Detective Raggedy Kevin Whitman. He basically finds Carrie's sponsor. He thinks that she's a part of some criminal organization. She's like, bro, I'm just her sponsor. He started asking all these questions about Jabari. And so essentially, Carrie's sponsor ends up dumping her. And so now she's upset. And to make matters even worse, we see that Zeke is going through his whole thing. He has to hold a press conference as a part of Monet's plan to basically get out of the game in the next 3 years, where she told him to become, to enter into the NBA draft. They hold the press conference. She asks Zeke, is everything behind you from what happened previously? Are you good to play? And he talks about how he's good. And while he's helping Drew rehab his arm by playing basketball, Drew ends up spilling the beans on what his mom's plan basically is. This makes Zeke mad. He goes to talk to Carrie, and basically he tells Carrie, hey, we can't see each other anymore. We need to just be done. And she agrees with him. And of course, when Zeke behind leave, Kevin Raggedy behind was right there looking at him leave. I was like, y'all are just so dumb. I just don't even, it's like everybody just stupid. Y'all doing all this illegal stuff and y'all can't even just creep on the low. Just, ugh. Anyways, essentially Kevin ends up going to talk to Carrie, asks him why was Zeke there. And then basically he brings up what is your alibi with Jabari? Because right now, honey, it's looking like you the one who did it. And so basically she has to spill the beans that she was with Zeke. And so now he has to question Zeke about what is going on. We see later in the episode when Zeke was getting on Zeke. Didn't they just talk to you about not messing with all these hoes? Didn't they just tell you stop messing with the hoe? They're going to be trying to get your money. You can't even get a stroke in, and this girl sitting up here asking which team you going to go to. I was like, girl, can you just shush? Can you just take the peen and just ask later after you get yours and he gets his? Ugh, it was bothering me. But we see Detective Whitman, he busts in after they get done doing the deed, and essentially the girl ends up recording him, basically taking him down to the station, and he's essentially going to question him about if whether or not he can corroborate with Carrie's story in order to rule her out as a suspect or not. So I don't know how this is going to play out, because it seemed like, oh girl, she was definitely finna share that video with everyone. So I don't know what's going to happen, but clearly you about to lose your job. Carrie gonna lose her job, y'all. I'm just saying, she's just stupid anyway. So essentially, we have this very random sex scene with Sax. I don't know why they just try to make Sax a thing, but it's okay. I'm gonna try to put all the issues I have with Sax to the side and just let him get his in this episode. He was smashing his little boo thing, Jenny, and essentially it seems like he's trying to catch feelings too, because afterwards he's talking about how was your day, sir. Last time I checked, we weren't in a relationship. We we just cut buddies. Like, why you asking how my day was? It ain't need about how my day was. You got you some veg, I got me some peen. We going on about our day. So essentially, she ends up telling him about the Jabari Reynolds case, about how Carrie is the main suspect, and also to how Tariq was questioned. So Saxe gives this information to Davis, and he basically says, like, hey, you need to get whatever information you can just to make sure that we know that Tariq is going to be cool. And then because, you know, Davis and Carrie had a little fling, he goes to check up on her, but she wasn't having it. She basically slams the door in his face as well. But in the midst of all of this, let's talk a little about Effie. Effie, I don't know. Every time I say Effie, be like, Curtis was supposed to love me. That had nothing to do with this. I just can't help it. Every time I say Effie, that's just what I think about as Dreamgirls. So I didn't know that Effie was like bisexual. I was like, okay, girl, get yours however you want to get it, boo. But she's interrupted with Brayden knocking on the door. And now Brayden talking about he's a queer ally. And then he's staring at her little boo thing. And then she called him a proud boy. And I was just like, this is way too much. So he ends up dropping off the product, but then he gets a phone call from Effie like, hey, this has been stepped on. Like, what is the problem? And so essentially when Brayden shows back up with Effie, she's getting to it with this girl because they like, you try to sell us some, some fake product. What is happening? So the girl started talking on the side of her mouth, and then Effie was like, if you gonna be froggy and leap, ho. She didn't say that, but I'm just saying. And so essentially they end up getting into a fight. Brayden got the brakes beat off of him, okay? So essentially they are waiting on Tariq to show up. He shows up with Diana, and essentially he was like, this your girl? And then he was like, no, it ain't like that. I said, it ain't like that. It ain't like that? Diana, you gotta stop letting this fool play you like this. He played you all last season. He playing you again right now. And so then her and Effie almost got into it, and they had to like be like, hey, we talking about business right now. Let's let all this other stuff go. And honestly, Tariq ain't nobody I'm gonna be fighting over anyway. Do better, Diana. You can do better than him. I'm glad Effie was like, don't nobody care about sometime Tariq. I don't care. I moved on. You need to do the same. So we see that later when they tell their mom about the fake product, she was just like, oh, I guess I'm gonna bake a cake. And I was like, sis, like, shouldn't you be upset? Drew and Diana looking like, yeah, why is she not upset? I'm like, baby, what is you going through? Like, what is happening right now? You're losing it. But we see that later, Diana basically goes to talk to Effie because she wants to go to school. She wants to learn more about accounting. She wants to be more helpful within the business. But she also wants to set herself up for success and not just having to rely on Zeke becoming this basketball superstar or worrying about her mother and them being in the game. She wants to get an education for herself, even though we see how Monet tried to basically disregard what she had to say and basically like, you just trying to cozy up with Tariq. But she actually wants to do this. And so she goes to Effie. And Effie basically, she's like, I want you to teach me on how to be in school and how to run a business at the same time. And so basically she tells her, well, first you need to figure out who had the most to gain by giving you fake product, which is when I figured out it was Kane Raggedy behind this whole time. And we see that Diana is starting to catch on to Kane. So I don't know when she's going to I don't know if she wants to get a little bit more evidence before she goes to her mother, but clearly she's on to him. So we see that later in the episode, we see that Tariq makes his decision finally that he has to let go of his past. We see that he gets rid of the phone and basically throws the SIM card and the phone into the fire. But I was a little confused because it seemed like he had planted the phone in Carrie's desk in order to frame her, but I was assuming that was the same phone, so he decided not to frame her. Somebody let me know in the comment section below, like, did I get that right? Am I tripping? Am I just sleep deprived right now? But it seems like he decided to throw the phone into the bonfire where he saw Lauren, because she's so thirsty. It's just ridiculous. And she takes him to her little spot on the rooftop. And essentially they end up kissing, but then he gets a phone call from Diana, and then Lauren's like, I gotta take this call. And I'm like, sir, that's the second time, literally the second time you have interrupted kissing, for a phone call. So Lauren had enough as she should have. And basically she was just like, I'm done with this. Like, I don't have time for all of this. And then this fool decides to take the spot that she showed him, which is her spot, to make it his spot, where it's going to be the new stash. And so he texts Diana and basically says that's going to be the new stash. And I was just like, he is just highly disrespectful. But the part that got me was this whole episode, Monet has been hearing that, can you stand the rain? I know I can't sing, but it's okay though. Y'all knew what I was trying to do. I think it's even more funny just because, you know, Woody, the actor who played Kane, was in the New Edition movie, but, you know, every time I heard it, I just can't help but to make the correlation. But we see that actually this was a signal. We saw the card twice. There was playing the song. I thought it was about like her anniversary. I thought like Lorenzo had did all of this. We saw that they met up and essentially, you know, she was like, I can't do this no more. Like, I don't get nothing. Like, you've been in jail. Like, this is not like what I said I do to. And basically that's when he went off of her and basically told her to go make nice with Kane, get the new connect. And, you know, basically she went in and had I wouldn't say she apologized. She had a conversation with Kane and got him to come back home. And she should have been suspicious at how he was just so like, yeah, like, I ain't got no problem with 2 weeks. We good. Let's go. I was like, you should have been suspicious about that. Because clearly Diana was looking suspicious the whole time at this dinner table when Kane showed up. But we see that actually MECCA and Monet used to mess with each other back in the day. And so that was his signal to her and knocking the trash cans over. And they went to go meet at Junior's, their spot, where basically he was like, I have to see you again. I was like, sis, you better go get that old thing back. Talking about whatever we had that's done. I said, have you seen him? His name Dante to her. But have you seen him? Okay. Sharana, you're supposed to be reviewing a show and you can't keep obsessing about how, y'all, have y'all seen his lips though? Them ooh. I'm trying to be safe. Let me get back to this review. So essentially, you know, it seemed like MECCA trying to get that old thing back and I'm here for it. I said, baby, if you don't want them, I'll take them, okay? So I can't wait to see how all of this is going to end up, because this also ties into, it seems like MECCA was trying to help Kane, but really he's trying to just get in good with his mom. And so I don't know what's going to happen when Kane finds out the history that they have, or I just need to understand what's going to happen when basically everyone's spot is blown up. But I really like this episode. I love the theme of this episode. I love how it looks like all these people are doing these selfless acts for other people, but really they're just doing it based on their own self-interest. And so I'm excited to see what they have in store for us for this entire season. All I know is MECCA better be here for the entire season, okay? If something happens to him, I'm gonna riot. Okay, I'm gonna riot. If y'all get rid of MECCA, I'm gonna riot. And I know I better see a sex scene with MECCA too and Monet. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna try not to lust. Lord, please help me. Please, my flesh is weak, Lord. Do not let me lust after him anymore in these recaps. Okay? We're gonna claim it right now. I really hope that this works. I don't think it is, but you know what? You gonna get me right, Lord. So those are pretty much my thoughts on this week's episode. I like the team up between Effie and Diana. I really like that Diana is like taking, you know, she wants to go to school. She want to do her own thing. I'm really here for this. So I'm excited to see how all of this is going to basically play itself out. But I like the setup for where we're going for this season. So those are my thoughts on Power Book 2 Ghost. Season 2, Episode 2, Selfless Act. As always, my name is Sharana from Payroll Waits, and if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit the notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. And until I see you again, bye.